All right, first up tonight, though, as we go down to business, director Martin Scorsese has been an outspoken critic of Marvel movies for quite some time. Basically, his criticism boils down to comments that the films are not, quote, cinema. For the first time, Cleveland's Russo brothers, Joe and Anthony, they're breaking their silence on the topic. They view cinema as a film that brings people together to have a shared experience, and that nobody owns cinema. Nobody. Martin Scorsese or any... Okay,
right.
I'm taking it a bit too far.
Stance, Sarah, do you believe that?
I think that they had a great response. I'm on the Russo brothers side here. I feel like this is such a Cleveland response as well. Like, we don't take ourselves or our art too seriously.
True.
Everybody can be involved, and to say that because it's about superheroes, it's not art. I don't know. They're doing an artsy thing now, so maybe they like to branch out, but I think it's a totally fair on their...
Here's my advice. Marty, lighten up.
Lighten up.
Yeah.
Lighten up, Marty.
Right, yeah.
And don't come at Cleveland like that. These
Right.
are our
Yeah,
gents. That's a bad
exactly.
mistake. He was quoted as saying that these kind of movies are like an amusement park ride, and it's not real cinema. Who doesn't like an amusement park ride?
Right.
You know, there's a reason. Not everybody wants to go to Williamsburg and learn all the time, you know, about what happened back in the day. Take me to Six Flags and put me on like the Batman ride or the Spider-Man ride. They are named after Marvel movies and stuff because it's fun. Notice there is no Mean Streets or Taxi Driver ride at Six Flags.
Right.
Kind of sounded like Mean Streak, though.
No, I understand, but that's not. That's the point.
Yeah.
Let us have fun. Get over yourself.
Little highbrow.
Yes, exactly.
little highbrow.
Cinema is.
I agree.
Totally.
It's very subjective.
I think
Can we
we're all
agree
on
on
the same
that?
page here.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
I
We all
agree.
agree. Martin Scorsese's wrong and we're right.
And we're going to go to the Mr. Rogers movie.